between the two of them.
The inside of Coates.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.
And welcome to the first round of the VRRC League of Champions. I am joined by Steve Proudley and Dave Marshall here in the commentary box, and we are at the fantastic Donington GP circuit, racing in the Porsche Challenge using the Porsche Super Cup cars. Gentlemen, how are we?
Yeah, very good, thank you, Dan. Thanks for the intro. And Donington Park, what a circuit! Lots of memories for myself. Way back into the 80s, giving away my age there, just watching the two-stroke MotoGP, as it were, back then in the day. But a fantastic circuit that will really challenge these Porsche Cup cars around here. We're using the full circuit, including the Melbourne hairpin. So some heavy braking into there, which is challenging in these cars, as we know, but we've got a packed grid, and it's looking like regular drivers coming back for more, and a few new ones sprinkled in there as well.
Absolutely, it's going to be absolutely incredible. I can't wait. It's shaping up to be an absolutely amazing championship, and racing hasn't even begun yet. Dave, for yourself, what's Donington? You know, any memories at Donington GP that you probably that you can remember?
I think I've had my fair share of dramatic races around Donington, the mini challenge being one of them, but it's just really strange and hard to get used to, the fact that this is my first race doing comms, and you know, for every Tuesday for the past 5 months I've probably raced, so it feels a bit unusual not to be practicing all weekend ready for the Tuesday race, but really looking forward to getting the same buzz, so let's see what it brings.
Absolutely. I think, to be fair, with some of the buzz that we had yet in the mini challenge and also the TT Cup cars as well, I know that the commentary that we've had from myself and Steve, what we've been commentating on, it's just been incredible. There's definitely been so much action as opposed to racing, as much as I do love my racing as well, and we both do, myself and Steve. Commentating is just a completely different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably learn a bit on the job here. I'm not going to claim to be a commentator, but I'm passionate about my racing, and I like to think I reasonably know what I'm talking about when it comes to sim racing. So, yeah, we'll see what it goes like. You know, I've raced a lot of these drivers that's on the grid. I know the standard of the driving amongst them, and you know, just because I'm at the championship means it's not going to be an easy walk for any of the drivers. You know, every driver's going to be trying to win this championship, and let's see what happens.
Exactly. Well, as you can see on the screen, we've got the UK Porsche Challenge using the GT3 cars. These cars never sat really into the GT3 category, and what you'll find is these are the actual cars that were used in sort of the 2017 era for the BTCC support races in the Porsche Super Cup. We've got on the left-hand side, you can see we've got first round at Donington, second round at Snetterton, another cracking track that I absolutely adore. We've got Thruxton, and then rounding off Alton Park in December. Steve, out of your four, you've got to pick one. I'm going to ask Dave this question as well. What's your favourite track out of these four here?
Well, it's a toss-up, to be honest, between Donington and Alton Park, but Alton Park is possibly, I think the undulation, the high-speed corners, the slow corners, the banked corner down at Shell Oils. I think it's a fantastic circuit, Alton Park, and I think that will be a very challenging circuit in these cars. And just one thing to mention, obviously Dave's in the commentary box. A little birdie told me I think they had to remove him from the grid to give the others guys a chance of winning. I'm not sure if that's true.
That is definitely not true. That is definitely not true. For me, without doubt, Dan, Thruxton. Without doubt. Turning that back section in these cars at about 140 mile an hour, it's not for the brave heart. So anyone going into their 2x2, anyone's guess who will come out in front.
Absolutely, no, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. What we've got as well here, as you can see, we've got, and this is actually talking a little bit more about, the Virtual Reality Racing Club. To be fair, what I'm going to do, Dave, I'm going to let you, as you have done a lot more work, obviously you're with VRRC a lot more, I'm going to let you sort of talk a little bit about this and sort of the whole League of Champions ethos and what it's going to be bringing, in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, so obviously I built up a very good reputation with Rich, and worked very closely together in trying to get this League of Champions up and running. He brought us on board to help with VRRC, and as soon as I got into the role of starting to help him out, it wasn't fair for me to then race in it. So I took a step back, and I've come into the comms box, and we've managed to come up with League of Champions, which is based a bit around Race Champions, which anyone not familiar is a race series designed for drivers all around the world of all different categories to come together and prove who is the fastest driver of them all through different disciplines of motorsport. So we're running 4 championships with 4 weeks in each one in different cars, and at the end all them points will go into a league table, and whoever comes out on top will have to show they're a very good driver in every different discipline. So we're starting off here in rear wheel drive and rear engined, which is a very difficult car to drive. The cars have ABS, but it certainly doesn't make it any easier to drive when the back end comes out. But then towards the end, we've got classic DTMs and front wheel drive, so it just really shows that whoever's going to come out on top of this has to prove themselves to be a really good driver and everything. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely, I think to be fair, that's something that myself and Steve, like I said, for my first commentary. My first commentary with VRRC was in the TT Cup, and that was just incredible. I honestly can't wait for this. I really, really can't. We're just actually going to be tuning in. We've got some chat as well. Making sure, do get involved in the comments. Do get involved in the YouTube channel. We're on streaming to several different platforms. We've got the Vardinator, one of my people that I talk to quite often on my stream, saying Super Dan, very much appreciated. Thank you very much, Vard. We've also got Connor as well, who's jumped in on Facebook. So hello, Connor. Hope you are doing well. Yeah, one thing that I like to talk about is I don't actually drive in AC that much. So is there something how does it compare? Because I've driven the Cup cars, I've driven the GT3 Porsche Super Cup cars, I've driven them in iRacing, I've driven them in, I think, R-Factor 2 as well. How does it differ? Is there anything you need to, or anything that the drivers, if they're new to AC, for example, if they don't necessarily know much about AC or how these cars perform, Steve, is there anything that's slightly different about these cars and how they handle?
I think you've got to familiarise yourself with any sim that you're going to use, because they're all ever so slightly different. I mean, they're all trying to be perfect, but they all go about it in a very slightly different way. And obviously it depends what hardware you've got as well. So I think, it's difficult to say, yes, there's one particular thing you've got to do. I think the main thing you have to do is just familiarise yourself, get the laps in, get some practice in. And it has to be said that the Cup car isn't the easiest out of the Porsche stable to drive. And to drive it fast you are on the edge, as you will see with these guys, as we've alluded to many times already this evening. The driving standards of this community are very high. There's some very fast boys in here. They aren't afraid to rub doors. There will be some close racing. There will be some hold your breath moments as they go through Carina curves and into the old hairpin, I'm sure of that. But yeah, there'll be some close racing. These cars are particularly difficult to drive, though, I think, in any sim. They do take a little bit of getting used to, and I'm sure Dave will agree with that.
Yeah, I think what we tend to find is, especially going to the off-season of racing now, we're getting an increased number of real drivers join AC. A lot of drivers, hear about the iRacings and online platforms like that, where you pay a subscription fee to iRacing and get entry into a lot of different championships. But what VRRC's brought is an online community that you pay a subscription to through membership for online communities like this and championships. So we've got the likes of Isaac Smith and Max Bird, who were just racing at Brands on the BTCC this weekend, racing in the minis. They've come to VRRC and they're racing on the grid here because they feel AC is the best platform and the most realistic feeling to drive on. So I would say anyone feeling like that sounds like a bit of them, feel free to get in touch and get interested.
Absolutely. Actually, just having a look, we should probably, I know that we've had a good. It's also good. I think it's always good having that slight insight, and also having insight. Obviously, Steve, it's been really good to have your insight as well, and also Dave as well. Having more insight and having to be. I think also it gets people a bit more involved and gives people a bit more of that knowledge that they may not necessarily have in broadcasts such as this. Just looking at qualifying now, Jack McIntyre has just put in a lap time. He's just put in a 1:27.649. That's almost getting off about half a second quicker than Jordan Brennan in second place. Is just under 10, or just under 10 minutes of qualifying left. Are we going to see much improvement on that time? I'm not entirely sure how practice times were. Dave, is there going to be much improvement on that, do you reckon?
A 27.6. Bear in mind, there's a program that we use called RSR, which is online leaderboards, and the world record times were high 28 until this season started. So that just really says the standard of the drivers that we've got here. It's not a case of people having the 29 to lap particularly slowly. It's a 27 is a blistering time, but just looking here, and actually Jordan Brennan is about to put it second, only 0.3 behind. Yeah, there we go. So, Jordan is very much hot on Jack's heels, and if I'm honest, I don't think Jack will have much more than that. I think Jordan's probably got a 10th or two there. I reckon we'll see third to 10th probably only separated by 3/10 in the end. So we'll wait and see, but I think Jack's probably guaranteed himself pole there. But don't forget, there's a reverse grid race of the top 12 in race 2. So just because he puts himself on pole, it's also all about the start, because you got to use your clutch, and it's hard to predict this one.
Very, very true indeed. Steve, I think this is probably a question for yourself as well. Anyone we should probably look out for? Maybe not necessarily in qualifying, but is there anyone we should really look out for that's going to make some waves and make some moves during the race?
There's a whole grid full of them, Dan. Absolutely. I mean, we've got Jack McIntyre obviously setting the times, and he was setting the times in practice as well. So if he can get a clean start, he may get a break going on. But Jordan Brennan, Max Edmondson, Robbie Stapleford, all those guys you're seeing in the top 10, definitely. I'm just looking further down to see if there's anybody really out of place that I expect to be higher up. And they're all sort of falling into some sort of order, it has to be said. But yeah, anyone in the top 10, it's like Dave said, if they can get it off the line, get the revs right, get the clutch bite point right, and get away on the green light and be first into red gate, then it's anyone's race really. But yeah, Jack McIntyre, I think, could be the man to beat, and Jordan Brennan will put him certainly under a lot of pressure, I think.
Absolutely. No, it's going to be very, very exciting indeed. We've got 7 minutes left. I'm just having a look at the track map as well, and I've driven Donny a fair. I've never driven Donny in real life, unfortunately. I have to say, I would love to drive in real life. I really look forward to hopefully next year I can actually get out on track. Driven it enough times on the sim. I think, and this is from my own personal experience, I think craner curves is going to be quite tricky, especially when the tyres are cold, the brakes are cold at the start of the race. That's going to be tricky. We do sometimes see a couple of people, try and go 2 or even 3 wide in some scenarios at the start of the race. May not be the most sensible option. What, in terms of a Dave, what would you say would be a good strategy? I know that the cliche is that you just don't crash. That's normally a good strategy that most people should go with. Is there anything really that, especially at Donington, drivers are going to have to look out for? Is there going to be any particular overtaking opportunity, especially in the first 2 or 3 laps, where people are starting to find their feet?
You're right in what you said. These cars are very, very much not easy to keep on the black stuff. It's a case of out the blocks, actually, when the tyres are warm. The car's got a lot of front end, and when the car's got a lot of front end, it likes to rotate a lot going up the old hairpin, which is the big sweep right-hand uphill about 4 corners into the track. It's probably going to be really crucial, especially for the front runners, to be nice and early on the brakes there, make sure they get a nice clean run up the hill. It'll be very easy for them to outbrake themselves slightly and put too much load onto them front wheels, and rear engine, the back end just wants to rotate out like a pendulum. So I think the key, especially for the front runners, is just to be nice and patient, getting on the brakes nice and early, and just build into the race. And the car will just let itself get more and more balanced throughout the race. So any of the back runners might see that as an opportunity to try and dive up the inside, which could lend itself to a bit of carnage. But we do have the safety car, so if we see anyone in the wall or anything like that, then a safety car may be called out, and then the grid's all backed up again, and the front runners will have all of it to do again.
I think absolutely that's one thing to really keep under is that safety car is potentially going to really say for example qualifying stays how it is, and we've only got 5 minutes left, bear in mind, so the time is going down pretty quickly as we see Scott Thorne trying to not entirely sure what Scott Thorne was doing there. Interesting, but he's back to the bits, that's all good. So for example, if Jack McIntyre, for example, if he kept pole position and he then pulled a good a fair lead, the problem is if you have a safety car, that lead is completely gone. So is it also as well the theory, what do you reckon people are going to do in strategy, Steve? Do you reckon that they're going to be potentially trying to, maybe not necessarily make the break fit that they need to and try and save tyres if there is a safety car and all the field then bunches up? What do you reckon strategy is going to really play into it?
I think that if you're at the front, the strategy's still got to be try and make a break for it. You can't race realistically thinking, well, there may be a safety car, so I'm going to save some tyres just in case. You're gonna go make that break at the front. You'd be silly not to really. And the midfield the strategy will play out as they race, because at the end of the day, they're all going to be gunning for that next place ahead of them, and they're going to battle hard for it. And I expect to see, even on the first lap, I expect to see some 2x2 action down the corner curves and people getting pushed wide into the old hairpin, because as we know that move, as we see so often, they go side by side down the corner curves, and realistically there is only one line through the old hairpin, and somebody usually ends up on the grass. But the strategies, I think they'll have one strategy in mind from the start, and that'll be to go as quick as they can, get away, and if they can get a break. If the safety car comes out, then it will just be very, very unlucky, and that's the way it'll play out, I think.
Very much so. It is a good point. It's something to really that people are going to have to. I think the sort of make or break for it is going to have to be done. Is it worth taking that risk? Probably not. It'll be interesting to see. At the moment, as they're standing, Jack McIntyre is still on pole position with a 1:27.649. We've got a 1:27.9, so just in the 1:28 for Jordan Brennan, who we've actually had someone on the. I'm just looking on my restream chat. We've had someone on Facebook saying, "Go on, Jordan." So someone is rooting for you there, Jordan. If Callum Newsham can still hear me, then no, really appreciate you getting involved with the getting involved on the stream. We've got Max Edmondson. I suppose about 5 tenths behind. So are we going to potentially see not only Jack McIntyre potentially make the breakaway, but also Jordan making a breakaway from Max as well? So maybe the top two are going to really start to pull away. Dave, what's your theory on it at the moment if qualifying stays as it is at the moment?
Unfortunately, Jack, as long as he can get a good pull away, will probably have the better advantage. He's probably got 0.1 to 2 a lap advantage on the rest of the grid. He's just found that little bit more in the setup, and he's maybe I know how experienced Jack is behind the sim wheel. The feel he has through his hands. You look at the rest of the grid, and there's a lot of drivers here that compete on the real grid, and they rely more feedback through the actual themselves and through the seat. So a lot of them are finding it slightly harder to adapt to a car that you can only feel what it's doing through the hands. But you're probably going to see throughout the race all the drivers getting more comfortable and maybe closing that gap in on Jack. But I think realistically, if Jack can keep it on track, he's looking good for first place. Jordan will give him a run for his money, and then who knows behind. If everyone can stay out of carnage, we'll wait and see.
Well, exactly. Now it's the thing. We've just got to wait. Have got to wait and see. We're just having a few. If you're wondering why we haven't got anything currently, we're not showing the rest of qualifying. We're just having a couple of server issues, I believe, which are being sorted now. So we do apologise, but we will be back with the racing in a little bit. We've also had Russ Mead on YouTube saying Team Trice. I'm not entirely sure who Team Trice or who is racing in Team Trice.
That would be a certain Toby Trice.
That'll be why. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yes, so he's relatively new to the VRRC Championships. I know he's had good success in Ginettas, and he's a real racer who's adapted himself to the sim. And to be fair, coming in within 60 laps, he was running near the front. So incredibly fast pace out the blocks. Yeah, I think he's definitely one to watch.
No, that's going to be good to see as well. And as we said, there's so many people that have come into this championship, so many people that are new to the VRRC, and there's just so much pace just throughout the entire field. There is just an enormous amount of pace. I know that, in qualifying, I suppose whether, we're looking at sort of like, you're looking at 0.3 or half a second or 0.7, you've got to understand that some people you may have that some people are better in a racing scenario, some people are better in a qualifying scenario. So it all sort of, in some scenarios, and in some, it does balance out. I know, for example, like myself, I'm actually better normally in a racing scenario. I don't necessarily qualify probably as well as I should, but then I'm more comfortable in a racing scenario. So that's one thing as well, is people that are slightly further down in qualifying may not be the standard, maybe a little bit quicker during the race.
That's me too as well, Dan. I'm not very good at hot lapping, and when I'm practicing on servers and I'm seeing the guys, as long as I'm in the sort of top 10, I'm relatively happy, because I know when it comes to race day, I'm pretty consistent with my times, and I can stick those same laps in at every lap within reason, and that's what it's all about. Yes, you give yourself the advantage by getting up to the front, but at the end of the day, you've got to be consistent, and with these cars, they are difficult animals to tame, and it's very difficult to be consistent in them. And just one question from me to Dave with regards to organising a championship like this, which is a big undertaking. The League of Champions, obviously, we're not just talking about the Porsches. We've got the other three. Yeah. How do you go about picking the tracks? I mean, we've got Donington, Snetterton, Thruxton, and Alton Park. So what led you to those choices for the Porsches? Let's just break it down to the Porsches. What led you to these 4 tracks for these cars? If you can answer that at all.
To be fair, it's probably just a bit of experience actually racing on the circuits myself. You get to know which tracks work for certain cars. So the likes of places like Brands Indy and the smaller tracks, in these Porsches, they're that fast. I mean, you're talking the touring cars which looked fast that we were racing in before. You're talking 300 horsepower. These are nearly 500. By the time you put 500 horsepower on a grid of 20 cars on a track that's only 50 seconds long, it doesn't lend itself to the better racing. So that lent itself straight away to doing the slightly bigger tracks. And I think it was really nice to start off with a British theme. A lot of drivers who have entered these championships, they've come to VRRC as new drivers, and they want to come on and do tracks that they're already familiar with. So opening up with the British tracks, my thinking was that hopefully they'll be able to jump on and be straight away more or less on the pace, whereas some of the more foreign tracks that we do later on in the championship, could prove a little bit more challenging for them to learn, but then at least they have a bit more game experience and car sim experience. So,
yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because with regards to the drivers, you can never please everybody all of the time, can you? So you've got to really, like you say, do a little bit of homework yourself, test the tracks, test the car, track combo, and stick with it. And then these guys have just got to practice, and they'll have good tracks and they'll have bad tracks, won't they?
Exactly. I mean, the likes of places like Thruxton is really going to lend itself to someone who can keep the right foot in it, whereas someone around Alton Park, I know we did some testing before the championship went live, and Max Bird was absolutely flying around Alton Park. So just because a driver isn't necessarily running on the podium pace in one circuit doesn't mean that you should rule them out for the whole championship, because as I say, different tracks suit different drivers.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting comment that you say there, that don't rule them out for the championship, because let's not forget the overall championship is different classes of cars as well. So we may see some drivers struggling in the Porsche Cup car, but when we go to the open wheelers or to the DTMs, they may really come into their own and start stealing a match on the other guys and making up some ground maybe that they lose here, or the reverse is maybe possible. We may see someone really going to the front and shining well in the Porsche that maybe doesn't do so well in another class, and I think it's a fantastic idea for a championship. So credit to you guys for making this happen.
Yeah, I think it's something really quite nice and new, and I haven't seen anyone else do this style of championship where you run multiple championships that go into one giant league. But as I say, we'll wait and see what happens. The Porsche is going to be very difficult to drive. Certain drivers might lend themselves better to front wheel drive, but as we know, that's the last championship in the league. And you might see drivers climbing the way back up the league standings in the last round. So it's not over until the last round.
Yeah, we've got qualifying underway again. Obviously, we've got 12 minutes left to go. We've got to restart the session. And we've got Edmondson on top at the minute with a 1:36. But obviously, as we saw in the first qualifying session before it got interrupted, that time is going to come down. And we sort of, the likes of Jack McIntyre, as you see Brennan go back on top at the minute with a 1:28.1. Have you ever been involved in a championship like this, Dan, at all?
Do you know what? I haven't, to be fair. My main sim is iRacing. So I do a lot of the general iRacing leagues and the iRacing championships that happen. Obviously, the ones where you can sort of race every hour, every 2 hours, and that sort of. So I normally do that along with the special events. I've recently started getting into a little bit more of ACC. So I'm starting to also expand my knowledge a little bit and starting to expand my my general sim racing. Actually, to be fair, another one I use is Automobilista 2. Absolutely incredible sim. I can't wait for more updates to follow from there. They just recently released GT3 and GT4 cars, and very impressive.
And Nordschleife
sim. Exactly. So there's definitely going to be some, as we're actually going to see on track. There's a little bit of racing there from Rob Butler, and I'm not entirely sure who that was there, but a little bit of racing already. Gents, calm down. It's still only qualifying. We're not racing yet. There's plenty of time for that in the races. So I really do want to start getting a lot more into these sort of racing leagues with VRRC and also SimSport as well. I want to be able to, enjoy racing on other sims as well as iRacing. I know iRacing obviously can be quite expensive. Well, actually, I say quite expensive. It is expensive. It's an expensive sim. Having these options as well, and having the options on sims like ACC, AC, Automobilista 2, you've got R Factor 2 as well. Like having those options to do those series as well, it's really, really good because you get people who don't necessarily want to race on iRacing or don't want to race on R Factor 2 have still a massively wide range of sims and also a wide range of leagues that they can choose from. So no, I really think I'm going to be getting into some more stuff probably very early, the early part of next season. So I'm really looking forward to getting more involved with AC because I don't really drive that often, if I'm honest. So it's a very, very new sim to me. So I'm going to have to try and learn it. Cracking shot on board with it. I really like this camera angle with the front tire. We've got Robbie Stapleford on board currently in 22nd. He hasn't set a time yet, although I was about to say he has gone wide on the last corner. He went wide at Goddard's there, so that lap may not count. He's just going to put, no, it's not going to count indeed. So he's now dropped down to 23rd. He's only got 9 minutes left. He should be able to put a time on the board. We've just moved to Jordan Brennan, who is back in P2. We've got Jack McIntyre, who's done that 1:27.856. The gap is a bit closer this time. It's about 0.4 of a second between Jack and Jordan as Jordan makes an interesting pit entry. Hopefully he doesn't do that in the race.
Yeah, that was a bit of a shame. That I was spectating that, and Jordan was actually 0.2 of a second up on his lap time. So I think he was really trying to push for Jack's pole lap there. But I think he was just a little bit greedy on the throttle. It just shows how easy the car can bite on him.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one thing. The rear engine cars, as much as they have got a lot of traction, you have got to be careful with this, with these Porsche Cup cars, because as you said, as soon as they let go, then they are just gone. There is almost no getting them back. We've got Edmondson that's currently 7/10 behind. I'm sure there's more time in it for him as well. So let's not. I think, to be honest, I know that we've got. I mean, what was 1.2 seconds separating the top 7. There's 2 seconds separating the top 14, so it is still pretty close. I'm sure those lap times will start to get a little bit closer. Everyone's had a bit more time to practice as well. I'm sure those times will be getting closer in the race as well. There's probably going to be some sort of packs opening up with a bit of with some gaps in between, I'm sure. But there's definitely going to be some racing throughout the field, which is going to be really good for us. Steve, one thing I was going to ask you as well is we've just seen.
That's more like
just
it.
Put in P2, P3. What a fantastic time that is. So this is now. I literally just said I've called it. It's starting to get closer already. We've now got 0.4 separating the top 3.
I was just going to say there before Stapleford did that, there was 2 guys I was looking down the list at, and Stapleford was one of them, and Butler as well, who I think is down in 19th at the moment. He's a guy I expect to be a little bit further up, so maybe he's just trying to find some space on the track and get that time in. yeah, it's really sort of panning out. Qualifying is a little bit closer than it was earlier. The times have come down, and yeah, that's a cracking time from Stapleford, because I'm not quite sure where he was in the first attempt at qualifying, but he was a bit further down the field than that.
No, exactly. It's going to be a very, very good. I'm just looking through the chat as well. So we've got a fair few people that are tuning in. So we've got Matthew Housley. All the best, Toby. You're watching at home. Fantastic. We've got Katie as well. We've got Mark Hicks saying it's good to be back, and thank you to everyone and everyone's efforts for bringing the live stream and getting the live stream, the broadcast sorted. So very much appreciate that, Mark. We've got Bob Cole with Edmondson, who I didn't realise is on a G29 wheel, which is very, very impressive indeed. So fair play to Edmondson then. What a cracking time. I mean, to be fair, the old Logitech G29, it's a sturdy old girl, the old G29. It's a cracking piece of kit. And you know what, actually, that's actually brought me to a question as well that I was probably going to, and this is a question for both of you guys, with 6 minutes left in qualifying. What is it, one of those things where, and this is sort of the age-old debate, this debate will always go on, it will always continue. Is there much difference, and is there much pace to be had in the hardware that you race? Is it something that is actually really that much of a difference, or is it just sort of all in the person's thought process, really?
I think personally there's the biggest percentage is in the person's ability and thought process, as you say, to and as Dave sort of alluded to earlier on, with how you can react to feeling it all through the wheel. But then there is a good percentage in the hardware with relation to potentially the brakes that you run, the pedal set, and you can go to the direct drive wheels. It just depends on your budget. But yeah, I mean, personally speaking, the upgrade I made in hardware that's gained me time was my brake pedals, going to a decent set of pedals, and then consistency. I became even more consistent when I went to a VR headset rather than racing on screens. But yeah, I would say the main sort of time and speed is in the person themselves, to be fair. What about you, Dave?
Yeah, I would partially agree with that. I think it's fair to say that going to a direct drive wheel, which any viewers watching that don't know what a direct drive wheel is, it's basically a wheel that is basically a gigantic motor, where the software makes the wheel feel, the way a car would, as opposed to the cheaper end wheels, which use a smaller motor and use belt systems in order to crank up the torque of the wheel. Lend itself to not feeling quite as direct as what you'd expect. But what we're finding is, especially pedals wise, the better pedal set you can buy, the better the lap time. But regarding wheels, a lot of esport drivers, the people at the very pinnacle, are running Thrustmaster wheels that, you're talking £600 for a top end Thrustmaster wheel, as opposed to £1,500 for a direct drive. But then saying that, a lot of the real drivers get on a direct drive, and that's what them are looking for in a wheel, as opposed to a Thrustmaster. So if you're new to sim racing, go Thrustmaster all the way and build yourself up. That way, if you're a real driver looking to get into sim racing, then bite the bullet and go direct drive, because that's what you're going to be able to use to train on for your real racing. So.
No, very much so. Very, very good point indeed. As we've got, that was an interesting move there. Again, we're not racing, gents. We've got 3 minutes left to qualify. Let's not jump the gun too much. We've actually got a couple more people that are rooting for Toby Trice. We've got the Ross, part of TT Racing, watching Toby Trice as well. So Trice has got a fair few fans by the looks of it. We've also got Ross as well saying, "Go on, Jordan." I'm guessing that is Jordan Brennan. So we've got a fair few people. We've got a fair few people that are, we've got some really, really good support here, which is really good to see. And we'll say as well, I know I'll keep saying it throughout the broadcast, is get involved on the chat. It's also good for us. You've got any questions for us? It's also good for us to to have some conversation during the racing as well. So yeah, feel free to get involved. We're just now jumping on board with Robin Walters, who is currently in P11, 1.5 seconds off of Jack's pole time for a 1:27.5. you actually notice that he's actually taken another couple of tenths off of his previous best, and now Jordan Brennan is 5 tenths behind, just over half a second. We have seen, though, and I believe, Dave, you were saying that Jordan was actually 2 tenths up on his personal best. There's definitely at least 2 tenths in it for Jordan. Is there any, do you reckon there's going to be any more moves? Maybe we've got 2 minutes left to qualifying, so maybe a lap left for a few people. Do you reckon there's going to be any more moves made up, sort of the mid to top of the field?
There's a lot of drivers that I'm looking at that I've seen them do better lap times than what they're posting in quali, but maybe under the pressure they're not quite managing to hook the lap up. But to be fair, you mentioned about Robin Walters there. He's a driver who's new to the VRRC Championship. He's jumped in. We run Thursday fun races, which are open to anyone with membership. They're not streamed or have commentary, but they're just designed to basically help people get involved with the VRRC community. And yeah, Robin Walters jumped in and put 4th on the grid straight away. So, all he's done a 29.1. I've seen him in the 28s in practice. So expect him to really push it in the race, and he'll be named in the top 10. I would have thought.
So definitely. So potentially, then there's still some people that are going to make some moves here. So it's going to be a very, very busy minute of qualifying. We've got Robin still on board with Robin Walters, who's currently in P11. Top 10 now only separated by 1.5 seconds. And actually, to be fair, from second, from P2 to P10, it's a second. Obviously, we've got Jack McIntyre, who's got half a second currently on the rest of the field. So, I mean, a second in lap time with 10 cars. Steve, that's going to be pretty close, isn't it, during the race?
Yeah, it's going to be mightily close. And like I say, it's going to be difficult for people to break away because they're going to be looking in the rearview mirror. But as Dave said, I do think Jack McIntyre has got the lap times if he can just hit those apexes on the first lap. I think he may just do enough to get away, but I think the battle behind him is going to be very, very interesting. And I think the top 10 could be a real mixed bag. And, it may not be reflective every week. That's the beauty of these championships. With the short races, the reverse grids, everything is sort of shaken up a lot from, each race round. Obviously, it's a top 12 reverse grid. So race 2 should look a lot different to race 1 results, and it's going to really, throw the championship wide open, which is what we want. We want it to go down to the wire, don't we? We want it to be close racing. We don't mind seeing a little bit of door rubbing, as long as everyone gets home at the end of the day and has fun doing it, then it's all good.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but Jack is actually nearly 0.3 of a second up on his best time. That is phenomenal pace.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. That's a full Harry King performance, that, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, that's as I just said there. I mean, and as you said, Dave, really, it's looking like he's got the lap times. If he can bring it home, and like I say, if he can get those apexes, hit the braking markers right, and stay out of trouble on the first couple of laps, then we could see him sort of growing a little bit of gap fairly quickly in this race.
He's definitely got the pace, but that doesn't mean it's race over to me, because these cars are notoriously hard to launch. A lot of weight on the back end wheels, so a lot of grip off the line. So it's all about clutch control. So all it would take is for Jack to slightly bog, and Jordan Brennan will be past him. So we've seen people go from 6th on the grid to 2nd before first corner, just off the launch. So yeah, for all that's the lap time, we'll wait and see, because that's not done and dusted yet.
It's not known. I mean, you sort of say that, if he can get it off the line, and I'm saying if he can hit the apexes. I've watched Jack McIntyre race a few disciplines, and I've been lucky enough to commentate on the Audis, the GT4s that we've just finished the other week. And he's a quick guy, but it's not unusual for him to make the odd mistake now and again. But I have to say that's usually when he's battling with somebody. If he can get away on his own, he's pretty good, isn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely got the alien status, let's say. He's ridiculously fast, and I've been privileged to battle him in many championships now, and yeah, he's definitely not a guy that you want behind you, because he won't stop fighting. He'll try and pass you. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, my eye at the moment, to be honest, a favourite from the GT4s and the TTs, favourite character, and he's a character, is Rob Butler. I mean, he's down in 9th in qualifying, I believe. So he's got a little bit of work to do, but he's another quick guy, isn't he?
Yeah, so he's got he lives in Ireland with his business and over there, but his girlfriend lives in England, so he's over at the English house tonight where he's got another sim. So I think it's just taken him a little bit time to dial the other sim in and get up to speed on that one. So I would expect him to probably increase his pace throughout the race, and then probably challenge for a 5th place. I would have thought in the race.
It's going to be very interesting indeed. I think we could probably all agree on that. However, yeah, I know we've said that the race is, but it's far from being done and dusted. But I mean, what a lap from Jack! That was absolutely incredible. Not to say though that Jordan had some time left in the car. We definitely saw at least 2/10 that Jordan had on the car. So yeah, it's two ways of looking at it, isn't it? It's very much two ways of looking at it. So you've got, if Jack can get his head down and then crack on, is Jordan going to catch up to him? Is he going to capitalise on that start? I think really this race can go any one of a million different ways. I think depending when the lights go out.
Yeah, very much so. It's going to be interesting. And I think we've got the pole sitter in the interview room now. So do you want to have a chat with him, Dan, and see what he's got to say about that absolutely stunning lap?
Absolutely. Let's go and have a chat with him. Good evening, Jack. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. Firstly, from all of us in the comms box, what a lap that was. What a lap. I know we haven't got very long, but honestly, that was absolutely incredible. So well done on that. How was it for you? It looked, it looked almost perfect.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think it was, to be fair. I've done a few hundred laps of practice before this series started, and that was probably the only lap I've done where I don't think I could go any faster anywhere. So it's kind of a bit of luck that I put that together in qualifying. But yeah, chuffed with that. Good
stuff. Like I said, I know we very, very quickly. I know you got to get ready for race 1. What's the game plan for race 1 then? What are you going to try and do? Is it just head down, crack on, and try and gap Jordan as much as you can? Like, what are you going to be thinking?
Yeah, hopefully they're quite tricky to get off the line, so we'll see how the start goes. But then, yeah, if I can get ahead through turn 1, it's just the plan's just to hopefully drive away. But you never know what's going to happen, so we'll see.
Well, very, very true indeed. Well, we'll let you go, Jack. All the best at race 1, and potentially we'll be catching up with you after race 1.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers. Take care. And there we go. That was Jack McIntyre, the pole sitter for the first race of round 1 of the League of Champions here at Donington Park. Gents, there's too many things to call, isn't there? There's absolutely too many things to call. I'm gonna say, Dave, what's your inkling for this race then? I know it's going to be very difficult, but you've got to have some idea at least.
I mean, to say Jack's not the favourite to win this race, I think it's probably an understatement, isn't it? I think he knows that was hooked up. He's got the pace to win it. It's just if he can get the launch. I don't think Robbie will be wanting to settle for 3rd place off this line. I think he's going to want to try and get up to 2nd as soon as he can. So, but what I'm really interested in, we've got Toby, or should I say Rob Butler in 9th, Toby in 8th, Isaac in 6th, and Max in 5th. 4 real drivers inside the top 10 that all want to gain as many positions off the line as they can. So, let's hope for no carnage.
No, exactly. Steve, again, same question for yourself. Who's your money on?
My money has to be on Jack McIntyre. I mean, we're not getting great odds on him because he is the favourite, but Jack McIntyre for the win. As Dave said, can get it off the line. And I think Butler will make up some places, but we've got the lights on now, so ready to go.
And this is it. We are away for round 1, race 1 at Donington Park. It looks to be a pretty even start. We've got Jordan taking a really defensive line going into turn 1. Jack looks to be taking his normal racing line. I think he's just about got the move as we're going to jump on board we're currently on board. That is with Jordan Brennan. So at the moment, Jack's got a pretty clean start. Jordan, though, is right with him. Jack probably hasn't got the start that he wanted to. But it's all pretty close in the field. The top 5, top 6, only separated by a second probably at the moment. So it's really close. We've got a car gone off in the background. Not entirely sure who that was there. We'll hopefully be able to find out who that was in a little bit. But we're just back on board with the number 4 car of Jordan Brennan. He's still with Jack. Already pulled a little bit of a gap to Rob Stapleford. I think at the moment of how we're looking at it, it looks to be pretty clean at the moment. I think Jordan's going to try and, want to stay on the back of Jack as much as he can. He's not going to want to try and make any moves. I think he's a little bit too far back to make any moves, although he's very, very late on the brakes. That's one thing to watch out for. I say he's late on the brakes. That was a little bit too late going through the S's there. And now he's in the clutches of Robbie Stapleford, who's going to try and make a move, potentially going to the Melbourne hairpin.
I believe we've got a safety car.
Ah, indeed. That would make sense. Everyone's weaving about. Yes.
Yeah, safety car is out.
Correct,
I believe
indeed.
that was Andy Carroll went off, I think, going into Old Hairpin. So I think it was probably just what you caught the corner of your eye there, Dan.
Right, gotcha. So that would be. I was getting so excited. I didn't notice everyone that was slowing down and weaving. So that was goes to show. We've actually got the safety car. You can see on your screen now that's going to be catching up and taking up the leader of Jack McIntyre. So straight away, you can see all the drivers. They're weaving. They're trying to make sure they keep some heat in the tyres. One thing that we have said, and we'll probably keep saying this throughout the throughout this round, is getting that heat into the front tyres and keeping the heat into the front tyres is absolutely critical, because if you lose that front tyre, you then lose front end bites. You're then generally going to be slower, and potentially on a restart like this, where obviously the field is all bunched up, it's going to be very, very close indeed. So keeping that heat into the tyres and brakes is going to be absolutely critical. Steve, what did you think of the first lap?
I thought it was absolutely amazing. I think it was some really great driving. It was very clean. The guys all got away well. Looked to be pretty good down corner curves, Old Hairpin, and it was just settling down for a good race. Obviously, we saw the car go off in the background. The safety cars come out now, and the pressure mounts again, doesn't it? Like you say, they've got to keep the heat in those tyres, because on the restart, going down the corner curves into the Old Hairpin, cold tyres are not going to be your best friend. And Jack McIntyre is going to be looking for that safety car to be going in, so he can get a bit of a gap, and then he can hopefully get a run back onto the start-finish line and get away cleanly again. But from Jack McIntyre's point of view, he'll be happy that this, if it had to happen, it's happened now, because realistically they'd maybe pulled half a second on the guys behind, as we've just seen somebody else. Looks like Will having issues there and was facing the wrong way. But the restart's going to be interesting.
It is very much indeed. I believe the safety car is in this lap yet, so Jack is now taking control of the restart. I mean, to be fair, where's he going to restart? I think he's already actually gone, so he's tried to make the move. I don't think it's worked as well as he thought. Actually, I take that back. It's actually worked really well. Jack has pulled already about 0.6 of a second to Jordan Brennan, but Jordan Brennan's also pulled an even bigger gap all the way to Stapleford. So at the moment, I think Jack and Jordan, they've both done exactly what they needed to do. They've both broken away. I think Jordan probably wanted to be a little bit closer to Jack than he would have liked. At the same time, though, I think what he needs to do is he needs to settle down, crack on, see if he can just pressure Jack into a mistake by simply just being there and not making any mistakes himself. It's all pretty close down the rest of the field as well. There's a few gaps made there, but at the same time, though, it's all still pretty close on this restart. Dave, what do you reckon is going to happen here?
I'm just watching this battle with Max Bird and Isaac. These are two drivers, mini challenge drivers. They know what each other do on the grid in real life. They're really battling hard here. Jack's got a mega start after the restart there, and Jordan's fair comfortable. But back from there, it's anyone's game who's going to take this third place. Oh, actually, just to say that, Isaac's just gone smidge wide. So going down at the second to last hairpin, Max going to have a look. No, he's put it off. Would he get the undercut? Oh, and Isaac span.
I wonder if there was a bit of contact there. It looked to be. You saw.
I think it was fair clean. I think
was it clean?
Was just a bit greedy. Yeah.
Okay. So again, we've talked about this before, and that was something. That was a bit of a late break there. That was the number 8 car of. That was Elliott there having a unfortunate incident going through into the last corner. Goddard's. This is a very, very, very Big defending here from Isaac. We've got Toby going to go try and go around the outside of turn 1, and we've got Isaac that runs Toby off the road. Which, to be honest, I think that was a little bit cheeky from both drivers. I think Toby tried to go on the outside. It was never really going to work, especially when you're, as you say, you're racing with a real life driver in mini challenge. It's going to be very, very push to shove. But that didn't quite work out for him. Steve, what were your thoughts on that incident there?
Yeah, I think it was Toby that actually pushed Isaac wide, wasn't it? I think into red bait. I'm not quite sure. I just saw the number 20 Edmondson. Sorry, number 22. He's moved up a place, but yeah, it was a fair move. He had track position, so he took the inside line and he sort of forced his opponent off wide. He could have backed out of it and followed in behind, but he didn't. As we see a little bit more contact there and 2 cars off into the barriers.
No, that is, I'm just having a look, that's Andy Dorman that's had an incident with O'Farrell there. Bit of a shame, that's Tom O'Farrell and Andy Dorman that's had an incident there. Whether that's going to bring out the safety car, not entirely sure. It might not do because both drivers seem to have got straight back on the track and now they're cracking on. So now currently on board, or on your screen now, is Elliott, Ryan Elliott. So he's currently in P11. He's about 6/10 off of the top 10 of Robin Walters. I think at this point here, with the amount of incidents, the amount of action that we've seen, I think what Ryan needs to do is just sort of head down, crack on, not make any mistakes, and really sort of see if there's any more racing that's going to be happening up front, because that's really going to slow each other guys up. As I say that, we've got Paolo Tempera that's actually having a little bit of a look on Ryan Elliott there. Doesn't quite make the move stick, and I think he actually hindered himself a bit there. Went wide. He's now lost a bit of speed going through Cranig curves, and that's put him potentially into the clutches of Scott Thorne, as we're now currently riding on board with Scott Thorne. Very, very good in there from Mike from the broadcast there. Very, very good timing that. Cracking camera angle. You get a real sense of the elevation changes, especially at Donington Park. It's a massive amount of elevation change, as we see Scott going a little bit wide going through McLean's there. So again, this could be a sense of we don't want to be working the tyres too hard. I know we've said actually, gents, that working the tyres too hard, as we've got Paolo going very, very sideways, going through Coppice. Very well held by him there. So
that was a very good save.
It was, wasn't it? That was, so now there's 2 points then we need to chat about. Is one, obviously we've spoken about how the cars can let go very, very easily, and that was almost just, 1 minute he was fine, next minute he wasn't, as we've got Scott going a little bit wide there. But also we've got making sure that we want to get heat in the tyres, but we also want to make sure, and the drivers need to make sure, that they don't actually overheat the front tyres and actually use them up too much and scrub them too much, Dave.
Yeah, it will be very easy to do that. I think realistically Jack and Brennan have probably opened up a big enough gap where they're probably not trying to push the car as hard as they push it in quali. You've seen how easy it is to just drop a wheel on the grass, and as soon as you drop a wheel on the grass, not only does then the car start to rotate, but your tyres then dirty for the remainder of the next corner. So you'll see a lot of drivers who's dipped a wheel will struggle for grip, and I think that's what happened to Paolo up at the top corner. He dipped the wheel going in, and then all the way on exit, he's just trying to control that overstay because his back tyre's got no grip. So very, very good save that one. That's very hard to do in these cars.
Yeah, just to mention while we're talking about tyres and sort of settling down, Jack McIntyre he's not really pulling away from Brennan at the moment. He's sort of 1.3 ahead, which is pretty much where he was after the safety car went in, after he'd finished that first lap out after the safety car. So he's settled down to the pace he's doing. And Jordan Brennan currently holds the fastest lap of the race with a 1:28.4. So they're sort of 1.2 seconds off Jack's pole time in qualifying. But that's about right for race pace, I think. And then that's where they've settled down. And like you say, they're maybe just preserving the tyres. They don't really need to race too hard. They've got a gap on the rest of the field. They just need to be sensible and play the long game, because this is a long championship, obviously.
It is indeed. I think we've got Jordan. Realistically, for the top two at the moment, you've got Jordan, who probably wants another safety car, and you've got Jack, who doesn't want a safety car. So it's pretty much a 50-50 either way it's going to go. From the action that we've seen, again, a safety car is not entirely out of the question, as we've got Andy Dorman currently focused on the car at the moment. He's having a battle with, I'm just having a look who that is. That's Martin Johnson that is the battle. This is the battle for P14. It's only about half-second difference. Andy has got, looks like he has some pretty good pace. He's keeping with Martin at the moment, so there could be some potential position changes there. I'm also having a look through the telemetry. You can see the relative on the display on the left-hand side. So you've got where it says Jack McIntyre with 6 laps. You've then got the gap to each car subsequently behind that. So you've got Jordan Brennan, who is now 1.7 seconds. He's dropped another few tenths off of Jack to 1.7. But that's a big gap between Brennan and Stapleford. That's 3.2 seconds, so a very, very big gap indeed.
Yeah, Jack's last lap, sorry to interrupt, Dan, that was, as I mentioned, that Jordan Brennan held the fastest lap. Jack just went and put in a 1:28.2, so he now holds the fastest lap, which is, as it shows on the relative, that's where he's gained a couple of tenths.
I see, gotcha, that would make sense indeed. We've just got another battle on board. This is for P18. We've got, again, I'm just going to have a look through who that is in the live timer. We've got Dave Noonan. Yeah, Dave Noonan and Kenny Press. This is the battle for P19. As we see, Dave's got a little bit wide. That's going to put Kenny in the advantage position. Although, to be fair, Dave has now got the inside line going for the Melbourne hairpin. Is there going to be a cutback? I think, actually, to be fair, that's very, very close indeed. Dave went a little bit too wide. He's going to try and grab... Wow, there you go. Kenny, that was a move around the outside. Kenny made the move around the outside, made it stick, job done. That was, I did not expect that, to be perfectly honest with you guys.
That was an impressive move by Kenny. That was for sure.
That was absolutely a cracking move there. Cracking move there from Kenny as well. I think that's one thing that, Steve, is it something that, I mean, I don't really see many people make a move down Melbourne helping like that around the outside.
That's just having confidence, and as we know, the back ends on these cars, they do snap out, and it's just a confidence thing, isn't it? Being able to give it that little bit of right foot without being too greedy and making it step out, and that was just a perfect demonstration of how to do that, and he went all the way around the outside successfully without it stepping out, without losing traction, which gave him the drive to take the position.
No, very much indeed. Very, very impressive move from Ken there. That was really, really good indeed. Looking at the top as well, this is the battle currently for P14. Okay, we've still got Martin Johnson's Andy Dormans. We've got Martin that's gone a little bit wide as well. Andy's now got the preferred position going on the inside of the Melbourne hairpin. This should be a done and dusted move unless Martin's got anything to say about it. He's going to still try and drive around the outside. It's actually, I say that, we've not seen many moves like that. There's 2 moves in the space of a lap. So this seems to be a regular occurrence in the Melbourne hairpin. People are trying to drive on the outside of each other. We've got Andy Dorman that's going to try and make the move back. Oh, this is all action everywhere, isn't it?
It is, and I think to be honest, that's just the nature of the cars. We're seeing somebody else almost, I think, go around the outside there, and it's the nature of the cars, and it's just having that confidence to be able to apply that right foot and have the sort of the feel for the car to be able to do that. As we're seeing them now go side by side down Craner Curves, which is another brave move.
Very brave move indeed there. So Andy Dorman has moved up a position on, I believe that is Martin Johnson, who went, unfortunately, slightly wide, going through into, I believe that was going down Crater Curves in turn 2 and 3. Sorry, that would have been out of Redgate, actually, out of turn 1, out of Redgate. So what I think Andy needs to do now, again, head down, crack on, try and pull away from Martin as much as he can. He's already got a bit of a gap, about half a second or 6 tenths of the gap now. So he needs to crack on. And he's currently in P13. 5.7 seconds up the road is Scott Thorne. So only 6 minutes left of the race plus 1 lap. So that may not change unless there's some battling, some really hard and heavy battling going on up ahead. Moving now we're inside the top 10. This is Charlie Oliver, who's gone, as I say, Charlie Oliver, he's gone ever so slightly wide. I say ever so slightly wide, he went very, very wide at Goddard's. That has lost him a little bit of time. It's not too bad, though. We've got Robin Walters that's still a second behind him, so realistically, that hasn't cost him that much time. He's still chasing down and hunting down Rob Butler, who's currently in P8. The gap is about 8 tenths of a second. It was, 6-7 tenths, obviously, with the move, with unfortunately Charlie going a little bit wide. Dave, I think from a position that if you're in the top 10, what do you want to do at this point, do you reckon? Do you want to sort of like really, crack on, try and use up your tyres as much as you can and try and gain some positions if there are any left, or should you just sort of accept it and utilise the race 2 for the reverse group?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's a reverse top 12, so anyone in that sort of 10th, 11th, 12th place, then we'll be thinking, if we get any further up the grid, then come second race, there's another position we're going to have to make off the line. So maybe, I'm not saying there's a little bit of tactics going on here, but you know, we've seen it before where, you know, Ryan Elliott's declared himself as not quite having the pace to be at the front, but then he's played the tactics very well for the second race and put himself on pole for the second race. So, you know, we might be seeing that again here. He's sat in 11th place at the moment, but I would keep an eye on this Robin and Charlie battle, because at the moment, you know, Robin's lapping about 0.1 quicker than Charlie. So any mistakes that Charlie's going to make, Robin's going to be really on his heels anytime soon. So
very much so. And to be fair, the gap is slowly coming down. The gap's only 6/10 of a second. So I think Charlie might be on Rob's heels sooner than we think. It's 4 minutes left of the race, though. So again, tactics, as you say, Dave, there's going to be tactics played into this. You know, does Charlie want to try and make that move stick, or is he just going to try and settle for P9 and then utilise that reverse top 12? As we've got, that is currently in P14, Martin Johnson flashing his lights furiously at, actually, tell a lie, that is Martin Johnson. And we've got Tom O'Farrell flashing his lights furiously, trying to put Martin off, although at the moment, no such luck there. He's actually dropped back a little bit. So having that confidence through it, and as I say that, he's actually caught back up going through the old hairpin. So tricky call on that again, flashing his lights, you know, trying to put people. To be honest, that's one thing I don't really think normally works, especially as I say that, he's actually potentially, that was a very, very wide line from Martin Johnson there. Not too sure if that's his normal racing line, but that's very, very wide, leaving the door open going through McLean. So that's something he's got to watch out for, with Tom O'Farrell being so close, as we see Tom going really wide, trying to maximise the speed going through Coppers.
He's really trying to get in his head, isn't he? He's really
Yes.
trying to get in his head. You know, Tom O'Farrell, I think he thinks he's got the pace here on Martin, and he's really trying to put the pressure on him and distracting to look in his mirror on every straight possible by the looks of it.
Yeah, exactly. And at the moment, doesn't seem to be working. Martin's got his head down. He's cracking on. I think he's probably using Andy potentially as a reference point. You know, a fixed point, trying to say no, let's just crack on. Use Andy as that sort of use Andy as that reference. Although I said it, his car has definitely seen better days, to be fair. But the gap sort of has stayed about right. It's about half a second from what it was last lap. So yeah, all sort of seeming to be. You know, at the moment, not much change. We're now on board with Tom O'Farrell. You can see here, really utilising as much of the track as he possibly can, going through red 8. Doesn't seem to have actually made up much time going through there. So is he using up too much of his tyres, or has he used up too much of his tyres? That's one thing as well, Steve, that drivers have always got to be careful of, is are they using too much of their tyres, and is that going to hinder them towards the end of the race?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're sort of 20-minute races. We're 18 minutes into this one now, so if they are going to hinder them, this is the time it's going to show. And it definitely sort of say that O'Farrell doesn't seem to be as quick out of Redgate and down the Craner curves, although having said that, he seems to be making up, albeit very small amounts of time, but he's making up time everywhere else. So I still think it's a fairly level playing field between these two. But O'Farrell just needs to keep flashing those lights and trying to distract Johnson in the braking zones, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? Just trying to take the driver in front's eyes off what he should be doing and putting them on the mirror just to have a look at you at the wrong time and miss that all-important braking zone or apex. And you know, I'm all for it. If it distracts them and creates a bit of racing, crack on, boys. Get into each other's head and see what we can do.
If we can try and get on Robin Walter's car here, he's really putting the heat on Charlie Oliver for this 9th position, so he's definitely not settling for that reverse 12 like I thought. He's really trying to push on and get as many positions as possible.
Well, that's going to be something to as well watch out for. This is going to be, I believe this may be one more lap after this one for Jack McIntyre. I'm actually looking at the gap now up ahead. We haven't had much screen time for Jack because he's just completely gapped Jordan Brennan. He's 2.5 seconds now up the road. This has been a completely dominant performance by him for the first race. You see on the main screen now we've got Jack McIntyre currently on the main screen with the top right hand corner as well. I believe that as you say, that's the battle with Walters and Oliver. So yeah, really putting the pressure on here. Dropped a couple of tenths though, so this one lap or potentially 2 laps, it's really going to have to Walters is going to have to really put some time in and really put some good laps in. Just looking on YouTube as well, we've got a couple more people commenting. So we've got Bob Cole saying there's some heavy breathing ASMR going. Interesting. Not entirely sure what that is there. But yeah, interesting comment there from, and we've got Dave Jones as well saying good evening, guys. So good evening to you, Dave. Thank you very much for tuning in to the broadcast. I think this is no. There's actually going to be one more lap after this. The timer has gone down, but I believe Jack McIntyre actually passed the finish line before that. So one more lap after this. A little bit of a wiggle there from Walters, so he's trying as much as he can to try and catch up to the back of Oliver. At the moment, he can't do it. The gap's now dropped down to a second, so unless he's going to really pull something out of the bag, is he going to make up a second in 2 laps? Potentially. I think, though, if Charlie can get his head down and crack on and not make any mistakes, I think that's going to be a done and dusted deal for Charlie in P9. So we move down to, that is Martin Johnson, still in P14. Bit of sort of no man's land at the moment, actually, from Andy and Tom. Tom's dropped back a little bit. I think, again, he's settling for P15. Don't know if he's, like I said, we've talked about, is he just used his tyres up? He was driving the car very, very hard. So has this been the fact that his tyres are completely gone now, Dave?
Oh, look at that. Look at that. He's gone. He's spun.
That was commentator's curse, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. As you were talking about the tyres, I could see his back end go. It looked like he was going to catch it, but no, it just went too far and turned him around. So really, really unfortunate there.
I think I was noticing that from Tom. It seemed like, for all he thought he had the pace on Martin, I think he was just driving that little bit more aggressive and using a bit more of that tyre. And I think it's just bit him a little bit there coming out of the top. So fair play to Martin, kept his head down and look what's happened.
Well, exactly. Yeah, at the end of the day, persistency pays off and consistency pays off as well. That's one thing that, being fast across a lap in a qualifying session, absolutely fantastic. If you can't replicate that lap, then unfortunately that's going to be, that's going to be something that is going to be the downfall during a race. On board now, or on your main screen, we've got Jack McIntyre on his final lap for race 1. Gap is now 3.8 seconds, so he's just showing off a bit now, isn't he?
I was going to say, on Jack McIntyre, we're talking about tyre conservation. His last lap was a 1:28.165, which was his fastest lap of the race. Jordan Brennan currently has the fastest lap of the race with a 1:28.117, so very, very close. But yeah, Jack McIntyre, as we said at the beginning, he went off, he's done what he needs to do, conserved his tyres, and he's putting in the fastest laps of his race towards the end of the race even, so he's done a sterling job as he brings it home now. Absolutely
a cracking, a stellar drive for Jack McIntyre. So one more corner left, and I believe, providing no heavy throttle, I think that's it. A little bit of a wiggle on the exit there, but Jack McIntyre takes race 1 victory at Donington Park here for the VRRC League of Champions in the Porsche Challenge cars. Absolutely incredible race. Jordan Brennan taking home P2, as well as Robbie Stapleford rounding out the top 3. Still battles going on down there. I don't think it's going to be that many positions moved. There's only one more corner left, so we've got Charlie is still going to take P9, so a very, very good drive from him. He will be starting P4 on the grid, as we've got Andy Dorman as well in P13. Just missing out, though, unfortunately, just missing out on the reverse grid. So he will start P13 for race 2. But Scott Thorne is going to be jumping with joy, I think, for race 2, because he's going to be starting on pole position.
Yeah, race 2, what a prospect that's going to be with the reverse grid, and some of these guys with the lap times that they've been putting in. There's certainly going to be some battling through the field in the second race, as we would expect, and I think it's going to be some awesome racing to come.
Very much so, it is absolutely indeed. Dave, a very, very eventful first race. What was a highlight for you from the first race, and what are you sort of looking at? Anyone that you've now, after the first race has happened, anything you're now looking out for race 2?
I think it's fair to say Jack and Jordan seem to be in a fair class of their own. To open up, what's that? Jordan was 4 seconds back from Jack, which is, that's not a huge margin to open up. But Robbie Stapleford was then, circa 10 seconds. So, them two lads are really showing, getting the hang of this 911 and driving the wheels off it. I was really impressed with Robin Walters. I think he put together a stellar drive and really kept it safe and brought it through the grid. And as I said before, Max, Isaac, Toby and Rob, there they are in that mid position, kept the heads down. Maybe ended all up in no man's land a bit, but they all kept it clean, all kept it on track, and they're going to be hoped for a very similar race too.
Absolutely, it's going to be a very, hoping obviously that everyone's going to be nice and clean for race 2. With that reverse grid though, it's definitely going to stir something up, so it's going to be very, very exciting to watch. Hopefully exciting, actually more exciting for the people watching the broadcast at the moment. We've had a couple more people for Team Toby Trice there with a solid P7 indeed. So Toby, as we just said, in the midfield, in the sort of the comfortably within the top 10. So a very, very good drive from Toby there as well. And I believe that's going to put him in sort of fifth or sixth position for the reverse grid. I'm not sure if we're going to get some displays up on the stream, on the broadcast, but we'll just run through everyone at the moment. We'll run through the final positions for race 1. So we've got Jack McIntyre in P1, Jordan Brennan P2, as I just said that. Look at that, as if by magic. So we've got Jack, Jordan and Robbie in the top 3. Max Burr with a very, very good drive in P4, although potentially a little bit uneventful, but I'm sure he's not complaining. Max Edmondson in rounding up the top 5, Isaac Smith P6, Toby Trice P7, Rob Butler 8th, Charlie Oliver 9th, Robin Walters rounding out the top 10. We've got Ryan Elliott, P11, Scott Thorne in P12, that all-important P12. So here's going to be pole position for race 2. Andy Dorman just missing out, unfortunately, on the pole position for race 2. We've got Martin Johnson in P14, Tom O'Fowle, P15, Mick Sutton, Andy Carroll, Kenny Press, Keir, that's McConomy. Yep, that is. Sorry, apologies. Paolo Tempera, Dave Noonan, and Paul Laramie with Will bringing up the rear in P23. Honestly, that was just... there was so much action in that. I cannot wait for this reverse grid. If that's anything to go by, then that's just going to be... gents, that's going to be... Race 2 is going to be insane.
Yeah, absolutely, and can't wait really. It's going to be absolutely cracking race, and there's a few drivers I noticed the times had improved as we went through that race, but I think we've got some of the drivers in the interview room now, just waiting for a chat.
We have indeed. Dave, would you want to go and have a chat with them?
I can do indeed. Yep, we'll jump in.
Go for it.
How we doing, Jack?
Hello. Yeah, really good.
That was some drive, wasn't it? How did that go for you? I know you got a very clean start, and I bet you were good to see the safety car come out.
Yeah, well, it wasn't too bad. I mean, yeah, like you said, I got a really good start this time, so happy with that, and got in front of everyone else. So it was just kind of already settling in, but then the safety car came out. But it's not too bad being the leader. I think it's a bit more of a risk when you're behind. Doing the safety car, but being able to control the pace and get a good exit out of the last corner, I was reasonably confident I was going to be able to maintain the gap. So yeah, just settled in after that, and all went well.
Yes, I think you've got a few tenths on the grid over the rest of them. What you thinking like for reverse grid? How difficult do you think it'll be to get through the traffic?
It's going to be tricky, I think. These cars are, there's a reasonable amount of, I guess, pace differential between everyone, but the cars are really, really good to race and really tricky to pass. So we'll just have to see. I mean, obviously I'm aiming for the front, but we'll just have to see how it goes. I think it's just going to be about staying out of trouble and then hopefully being able to pull the guys in from the front.
Is there any places on track particularly that you think you might chuck an overtake, maybe out the chicane where you can carry a little bit more speed, or are you just going to take any opportunity you can see?
Yeah, I'll just see what happens as it goes and see how far I progress to whether or not I need to start really sending it up the inside. I think I'm quite good on exit, so probably set a few moves up through the faster corners on the exits. So yeah, we'll just see. It's just you just got to play how it play the cards how they're dealt really during the race. So hopefully it all goes well.
Oh well, that's mega, Jack. Good luck in the next race.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Well, I don't think that was too bad a first interview, was it, Dan?
No, not at all. Very, very good indeed. No, that was good. Sorry to throw you in at the deep end there, but no, cope with it very, very well.
But I promise I didn't have questions wrote down. I was just off the bat, but it was interesting to hear off Jack there, wasn't it? He's not sure himself, even with the pace that he's got, how he's going to quite get through this traffic. So.
No, exactly. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting. We've got a couple minutes left before the race, before race 2 gets underway. Steve, I know obviously after that a very, very eventful race 1. what's the money on for race 2? Is it going to be something that Jack's going to work through the field and then walk away, or is it going to be a lot closer? I have a feeling it's going to be a lot closer, but what are your thoughts?
I think it's going to be a lot closer. I think if Jack can get the moves done cleanly without getting involved in any serious door rubbing where he leaves the track, then he could be favourite for this race as well, to be honest. Such is the pace difference that these guys have got. But having said that, I was keeping an eye on a few of the guys sort of further down the field, towards the back of the top 10 and Rob Butler. And towards the end of that race, they improved on their best lap times by over a second in race pace. So that's quite an improvement. So in the second race, now that they're starting a bit further forward, maybe we'll see some closer racing from those guys, and maybe they'll prove a little bit harder to pass.
Indeed. Well, we are going to find out as the lights are on, and the lights are going to go out now, and we are away for race 2 at Donington Park in the VRRC Porsche Challenge race. People on the grass already. This is going to be incredible. This is actually going to be very, very busy indeed. Although, in saying that, a pretty even start, pretty clean from everyone as well, which is the main thing that we want. We want a clean start. As I say that, 2 people now go off. Commentators curse again, setting in that. Unfortunately, that was Isaac Smith and Butler as well, having a bit of an incident there. Not good at all. We've got 2 people, a couple of people going too wide. We've got 2 sets of people going too wide down through the old hairpin. Again, everything's, again, another couple of people that are off. Whether there's going to be a safety car, there's more people off as well. 2 people, there's 2 wide now going through up into McLean's as well, but they all sort of settle back into a rhythm at the moment. Scott Thorne is just...
Safety car deployed.
Thought there would be. Yeah, thought there would be.
It's a bit of a shame, that. That's a bit of a shame, because on the whole, that was actually a really good start. To see cars going 2 by 2 down trainers, the amount of cars that did end up going off there, I think that was a really good start. But yeah, it's a shame, but let's see what this after safety car brings.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's very, very close indeed. Scott had a perfect start. The gap was about, I think, a second within the first 3 corners. So an absolutely incredible start from Scott. I don't think he didn't want it to be. He didn't want to be in the position that he is now. Unfortunately, that safety car has bunched that grid up. However, when the safety car goes, when it's obviously his race and his race, and he decides when he goes, he's got a little bit of time. To decide when he goes, to try and pull a bit of a gap as well. So we see the safety car there. You've got it on the screen as well. Safety car deployed. A couple of people on YouTube saying as well. We've got Katie saying that Shane Toby almost got 6th then on the last lap for race 1. Very, very close indeed. However, I'm sure he's not complaining. As Ross has said it perfectly as well. A great start from Toby. He's in P3. He's absolutely loving life.
Yeah, absolutely. And just looking back at Jack McIntyre, Brennan, sort of in 8th and 9th, Robbie Stepford up into 7th place. So they're making progress, albeit slowly. We've only completed 1 lap, so they've made progress all the same. It's going to be good. I like this safety car, to be honest, because those guys that have gone off now, it gives them chance to regroup, get back onto the back of the pack, retake some positions at the back, and get ready to carry on racing. All is not lost.
No, exactly, very much so. No, all is not lost. You've got, unfortunately, I think Isaac was one of the people that did lose out. He's all the way down in P19, but the pace that he had, I'm sure there's positions for him to make up. So in the top 5, you've got Scott Thorne, Ryan Elliott, Toby Trice, Charlie Oliver, and Max Bird in the top 5. That's going to be a very, very close top 5. I don't think there's going to be, providing that it's a clean start, there is going to be some battling. However, you're probably going to get 2 or 3 people that are going to have, try and get the sort of like, the race heads on. And I don't think they're going to want to be. They may want to try and create that gap first. And
I believe safety cars in.
It is indeed, yes, safety cars in. No, yeah. Very, very true indeed. So Scott Thorne's going to be setting the pace. He is setting the pace now. You see he's dropped back off of the safety car. So he is choosing when he wants to go. Now, this is his race to control, and this is his thing to go when he starts. So as soon as Scott Thorne goes, pretty much before, as long as we get past the start-finish line, it is then green flag racing. So he's not gone yet. Probably going to wait to the exit, and then bang, off he goes. It is, unfortunately, not as good of a start as Jack McIntyre got on race 1 of the restart. So we've got Scott Thorne, but we've got Ryan Elliott. There's absolutely on the back bumper of him there. As I say that, no, he's gone wide. He saved it, though. Fair play. What a very, very good save indeed. But unfortunately, that's dropped him down all the way to P5. So Toby Trice has moved up to P2. Ryan Elliott has now inherited the lead, with Charlie Oliver taking P3. 3. That spiced things up a bit, hasn't it, Steve?
Yeah, that could have just been some cold tyre for Scott Thorne, not quite sure. Maybe just a bit greedy with the right foot, one or the other, or maybe both there. But Toby Trice, like you say, he's on the charge, he's on a mission, and he's battling for that lead now. So he's going to be pushing hard. So we're looking at Jack McIntyre, sort of in 7th place now, and looking to move forward through the pack and making reasonable progress, has to be said.
Yes, indeed, making some very, very good progress, as we see. But yes, now, currently on your screen, we've got Toby Trice. Pulled a little bit of a gap now to Charlie Oliver, and it's only about 3/10 away from Ryan Elliott. So, not too sure what he's going to do here. He's probably going to sit behind to see what pace he's got. We've got Max Bird now going to go down the inside of the Melbourne hairpin. Textbook move, that very, very good indeed. So he's now moved up into P3 on Charlie Oliver. So cracking move from him. Really, really textbook. He just needed to do what he needs to do. He got it done. That was good. Max Bird also, well, I've just been told, he actually won a race in the Mini Challenge this weekend as well, which I didn't realise. So congratulations to a belated congratulations to him. But he's obviously using what he's learnt and what he's taken from his race weekend and applying it to the League of Champions race, isn't he, Dave?
Yeah, and I know it's probably a bit of a tenuous link, but the conditions at Branch Hatch at the weekend were absolutely treacherous, and Max Bird, proved that, racing in the real world in a very difficult front-wheel drive Mini that's notoriously unstable. He come away with a win there, and who knows, maybe we're seeing...
We've just seen someone go off there. Who was that? That was Thorne. Thorne's gone off. Thorne's gone off again. Sorry to interrupt, Dave.
Is that Scott Thorne, is it?
Yeah, Scott Thorne gone off again.
And that might be a case of, after that first spin on first corner, he's just got too much heat into them back tyres, and he's struggling to get the back tyres back down. Who knows? But as I was saying before, maybe we're just finding that Max Bird, after being behind the safety car, he can just keep his tyres, in that window better, or maybe he's just better at driving the tyres on them cooler settings, and it's got that bit of car control. But I think he's definitely going to be sniffing at the first place here, because he can see he's got the pace. Toby's, being patient behind Ryan. I think Toby knows he's got the pace here as well for a first place. But yeah, I reckon it's going to be between Toby and Max this for the win.
Yeah, well, Stapleford's moving through the field quite well, albeit he's being followed by McIntyre and Brennan. Those three are sticking together, but Stapleford's up into 5th place and looking to make a move on Oliver in the next couple of laps, I would say. Those guys are really making progress through the field and looking to climb back onto the podium if they can. But as we return to the front now, we can see ahead of Bird here with Trice and Elliott are very close down Craner curves now. Toby's really putting some pressure on.
He just had a huge slide coming out of turn 1 there, so that's what's brought Max right onto his back bumper here, coming back up the hill. Will we see Max trying to work with Toby here to get onto first place, or is Max going to jump at the first opportunity to get past him?
I think, to be fair, realistically, we just see Isaac Smith having a little bit of a, not too sure, that looked to be at Redgate. But yeah, Toby really got collected, we've just been told. Unfortunately for him there, as you see, Toby's really working these tyres. I'm hoping, and what should be probably the more sensible thing to do at this point is, providing that, as I say that, Max is going to look for the move on the inside, going to go through the S's. Is he going to make that move? That's a very, very brave move indeed. Unfortunately, that was never going to work in a million years. Unfortunately, Max, that's dropped him a little bit of time. I think in this scenario here, what Max needs to do is, as you said, David, needs to work with Toby and try and catch up to the back of Ryan. This is only going to slow them down. This is also going to put them into the clutches of Charlie again, which is now only 3/10.
Not only Charlie though, yeah, Jack McIntyre's got past Stapleford and he's only a second behind, and obviously Brennan's only half a second, well less than that now, behind Stapleford. So this battle up front potentially is going to turn into 7 cars very shortly, as we can see them all line astern coming down the start-finish straight now, entering into Redgate. Absolutely fantastic shot that.
Yeah, I think if I was Max here following, I'll be wanting to work and trying to get past Ryan, because we know from the Mini Challenge that, Ryan has had the nickname as Hadrian's Wall. He's, actually just saying that, he's just had a huge moment going up the curve. Huge moment. Toby has got the lead. So, as I say that, Toby's got the lead. He'll be wanting to get his head down and pull away now before Jack catches up.
Yeah,
very unfortunate.
Yeah, Jack McIntyre now into 4th place, literally just one place away from a podium, and he's 4/10 back from that podium place. So Toby, Trice, Max Bird and Oliver, now they're going to need to really try and get the hammer down, but it's almost inevitable that Jack's going to start catching and then putting them under some very severe pressure very shortly.
Well, exactly. They've got to watch out because Jack is already on the back of. Jack's already in the back of Charlie, going to be probably making the move stick, going down into the Melbourne hairpin. This is going to be, if Jack can stick on the inside, a textbook move. It is indeed a textbook move from Jack McIntyre. Unfortunately, though, Charlie was caught sleeping, and now Robbie Stapleford is now getting on the action, going through the last corner. He's going to try and go around the outside. He's going to switch to the inside late on the brakes, last of the late brakes.
Fantastic move.
Cracking move.
Yeah,
that was a really good move. That sort of reminds me a bit of, was that the Mansell-esque move? Was it a Mansell-esque move? I can't remember where it was for the life of me. But it could have been a Mansell Senna move, that way he sort of darts to the inside really late on the brakes. Cracking move that from Stapleford there. So he is now trying to follow Jack as much as he can, because at this point, Jack, unless he can get the gap is 8 tenths to Max Bird. Unless he can get his head down and make that move stick almost instantaneously, I think Stapleford's going to try and catch up to the back of Jack and utilise Jack fighting with Max and potentially Toby as well, and he's going to utilise that to try and get into the back of the top 3 at the moment. But he's so very close. He can see P1, he can see the leader, so that's a really good thing to have, especially from a position of your mental state. If you can see the leader, you're not that far away. It gives you a lot more confidence rather than the leader being sort of 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds up the road. So that's really going to play into some positive thoughts from Stapleford, I am sure. At the moment, though, battle for Jordan Brennan hasn't been so lucky with the track, hasn't been so lucky with making some moves. As I say that, he could potentially make a move on Charlie at the moment, going through again. So the favourite move and the favourite overtaking position, and he's going to make the move stick even before the corner is there. Looks to be a text move again from Jordan there, capitalising on Charlie going a little bit wide, going through the S's. So everyone is making some moves here, aren't they, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. Really pushing hard and some very, very clean and close fighting and some fantastic driving from all the drivers involved. Just a question for Dave. Obviously, you've been in the position of the reverse grids and starting back down in 12th place and fighting back through, as I've seen, and getting on the podium. How much more does that take out of your tyres? I mean, is that something that the likes of, say, I'm looking at Stapleford more than anybody, because he's driving very hard to try and keep up with McIntyre. I mean, is it a lot harder in race 2 usually on the tyres, or is it just a case of it's actually out of your control a bit more, the tyre management, because you're just having to push so hard?
I don't know whether tyres is going to come into it that much, if I'm honest with you, but one thing we haven't touched on is, you do get into dirty air, which is, it's basically, you can see the size of the massive wings on the back of this car. Once you get in that sort of 2 to 3 car bracket, you lose a lot of your front end aero. For all these cars don't have a lot of front end aero, it still makes quite a difference. So the cars that maybe are relying on having not quite as good turning at the front to keep the car stable, especially when the following cars is going to be really struggling to get any closer. But as you can probably see here, Jack is not struggling. He's going to know Max Bird isn't going to want to give up this place easily. It's just a question whether Max is going to try and drive his line in close to Toby, or whether he's going to start to defend, lose time to Toby, and not let Jack pass. So who knows the way this is going to develop. But I think that's probably why Robbie's just hanging back a little bit to try and gain any sort of advantage that these might trip over on.
Yeah, absolutely, and it looks like the battle with McIntyre and Bird behind might give Toby Trice just a little bit of breathing space for a lap or two, while Max Bird concentrates maybe a little bit more on McIntyre in his mirror. It might be a little bit of a respite for him, but that said, there's not a lot of respite for any of these guys. They are all very, very close at the moment. As we're riding on board with McIntyre now, we'll just sort of see how much he can close up in the braking zones and start to apply that pressure onto Bird in front of him.
Yeah, so you can probably see there, that's exactly what I was talking about earlier, where I think you can see from the way Jack's car's set up, it's got a lot of front end rotation and it relies on having good steering feel to catch the back end going. His car looks very loose, but because it's loose, it's very fast. Whereas if you look at Toby's car, it's maybe a lot more neutralised. But as I say that, Jack's going to get past Max Birdy because he got a little bit sideways getting through the chicane. I think job's already done by the time he's got the hairpin. this is not good news for Toby. Let's see how he can defend.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to come under a lot of pressure now, and that was just a simple mistake from Max. Just maybe took a bit too much curve, unsettled the car too much, and it gave McIntyre an opportunity that he didn't need a second invitation to take.
No, exactly. A second invitation is not something that Jack takes up very lightly. So we have as well. So at the moment, the running order for the top 5 we've got. Actually, we're running order for the top 10. We've got just under 6 minutes left. So we have Toby Trice still leading from Jack McIntyre. Max Bird in P3. Robbie Stapleford in P4. We've got Jordan Brennan P5. Who is putting in at the moment. He's just sort of sitting where he is. He's catching. He's just, and then I think he's just sitting there waiting for some more racing to happen to try and close up that field. Charlie Oliver is all the way in P6, but I'm going to say that, and we're going to switch straight back to Jack McIntyre now. He's going to try and make that move as quick as he can on Toby. He is trying to look for every way at the moment, though. Toby placing his car where it needs to be. He has got to be careful, though. A straight like this going down through the S's, he's got to be a bit careful. Almost seems to stop on the apex. Trying to defend going through Coppice, but it seemed to have worked. Jack still can't really find a way past. This is also putting in some good opportunity for Max to try and get onto the back of Jack. So potentially there's going to be a move there. Again, Toby takes that defensive line, puts it pretty much perfectly in the middle of the track, although Jack, a move that he has done previously before, he can't do it this time. Toby is just placing his car. Absolutely perfect defending at the moment from Toby. Going through Melbourne Head.
And look at Max Bird, he's sniffing at this now, isn't he?
This is just going to be absolutely incredible. So this battle, in the space of half the lap, has turned into a 5-way battle for, potentially this is a 5-way battle for the lead. Okay, we've got 5 or 4.5 minutes left, plus 1 more lap. We're currently on board with Jordan Brennan. So again, he's just sitting back. He's just letting the race come to him at the moment. He's just going, you guys crack on. I'm just going to sit here and then take whatever's left at the end of the race. So whether he's going to make a charge, he's probably saved his tyres. Maybe he's going to make a charge on the last lap or so. If he is going to, then there's definitely going to be some position for him. I am sure he's got a slightly better run out of the old hairpin than Stapleford. Is he going to try to make a move on the inside going through McLean's? I think he is indeed. Last of the late breakers. And as I said that, Jordan Brennan moves up into P4. A cracking move going through McLean's.
That is a cracking move up there. That is so brave.
It very much is. Very, very much indeed. And we see, actually, to be fair, I'm going to interrupt myself. We've got Jack McIntyre, who's now going to potentially lose a position to Max Bird. This is exactly what Toby wants. Toby wants these guys to battle, and he wants to just sail off into the distance. It doesn't look like at the moment, though, Jack is giving up at all. Toby's going to go again into the defensive line. He is indeed exactly what he did last lap. Just places his car in the middle of the track. He's not letting Jack by that easily, as now we've got someone that looks like Stapleford or Brendan trying to make a move on Max. Guys, this is just, Steve, this is just incredible. What a race this is.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't want to interrupt you there. It was full flow as Toby's doing an absolutely awesome job defending against Jack and making it very, very difficult for him to even get a sniff at getting past him. He's just placing that car so well. Max Bird's just letting McIntyre know that, yeah, I'm still here, but now he's got to look in his mirror at Jordan Brennan, who's made up another place, and he's right on his tail now. And as Dave said, he's playing the sensible game. He's taking the opportunities as and when they present themselves without pushing too hard. But he's really in contention for a podium position in that 4th place now. He can pounce on anything that happens in front of him from where he is. But yeah, McIntyre is really he's putting some pressure on Toby Trice, but it has to be said, Toby's dealing with it absolutely exceptionally.
Yeah, what a drive Toby's doing here, to be fair. I mean, Jack is really putting the pressure on him. If I was Toby, I'd be thinking the more I can back Jack up. You know, Max is an aggressive driver. He's going to look for any opportunity to get past. So, fair play to Toby. He did that himself. But I think we're just seeing Max Bird just drop off slightly here. So, if Toby can just back Jack up that little bit more, it's going to liven it back up again.
Exactly, yes. It is indeed. Sorry, Steve, go on.
I was just going to say, it's quite a difficult track to start backing people up, as we've seen McIntyre he's trying to go around the outside again, but Toby's got it covered yet again, and just place like that's given Max the opportunity to close up. But I was going to say, Donington, it's quite a fast-flowing track, so it's difficult to back people up an awful lot, isn't it?
It very much is. I think the place that you can really back up, which is what Toby has done again, absolutely perfectly, because now Toby's got a bit of a gap to Jack McIntyre with Max Bird. The gap is pretty much even, although Toby goes a little bit wide going through going through red gate, so that's put Jack back up on the back of Toby, and that was a mouthful. I never want to say that ever again. I never want to say that ever again. That was horrendous. Yeah, so the batter was now just come straight back. So yeah, I think the latter half of the lap is where you can really slow people down and try and close the gaps up. So yeah, I think again what we're going to have is going through the S's, going through the Melbourne hairpin, and also Goddard's as well. So really utilising the GP circuit to your advantage, and I believe, providing that Toby can do exactly what he's been doing the last couple of laps, although Jack is a little bit close, he's going to try and go around the outside of Coppice, which is an absolutely insane move, and I think he's just about placed his car there. This is going to be absolutely insanely close. Toby, door-to-door rubbing as well there. Max is going to try...
That's the move.
Max is going to try and look to make the move. Jack's going to go very, very late on the brakes. Is now what we're going to see is Toby going to try and make that move back. He's got the position, going to go potentially 3 wide going through into the Melbourne hairpin. This is going to be absolutely incredible stuff. I think Max has backed out of it though, and Toby's got the position back. He's made the move
excellent.
back, and Jack is now lost out.
Max has gone through almost.
What a honestly, Toby is just placing his car. He's doing it absolutely perfectly because he's just allowing the battle to happen between Jack and Max, because he knows that, as you said, he knows that Max is an aggressive driver, so he's just playing that to his absolutely perfect advantage.
This is excellent. I'm grinning too much. Look at Jordan Brennan as well. Don't forget about him. He's looking at this as any opportunity to try and get Max Bird now. So we're just looking at Jack here. Is he going to chuck a move down into Craners, into the old hairpin? No, I think he's too far back. Yeah, Toby is playing an absolute blinder here. He read that perfectly, backed out the braking zone for that chicane and got back the run on Jack as he went a little bit deep. If Toby can drive like this to the end of the race, he might just hold on for the win here.
Yeah, and it'd be a well-deserved win as well, it has to be said, because he's defended awesomely, so let's not put the curse on him, but he's doing what he needs to do, and he's keeping that car in first position. But look at those 3 cars behind McIntyre, all just queuing up to take a nibble now, and it's going to be some interesting slipstream effects going down this straight now.
It is, absolutely. So you got Toby again, he just backed it up enough. Oh, that's very, very close indeed. Oh, unfortunately, that was Max Bird, who's just got on the brakes a little bit too sharp. I think the rear could have been locked up, could have been a wheel on the grass. But luckily, as much as it was unfortunate for Max, luckily he didn't take out anyone else on there as well. So that's now put him up and dropped him down all the way to P7. Really unfortunate from him, but it's cracking driving up to that point. Honestly, that was really good. Very unfortunate for Max there. So that's moved Jordan up now into P3. So could this potentially now have an effect on Jack? Is he going to have to try and defend massively because Jordan has got that pace?
That's race over.
Race over. That was it.
Yeah, Toby Trace is the winner. Well done, Toby. Absolutely fantastic drive. Well deserved. Great respect to Jack McIntyre. Moved his way all the way through the field from 12th to 2nd. Had the pace to get in the lead, but just couldn't get round Toby, who put up an absolutely fantastic defence. Lost the lead once into the S's, but gained it back immediately into the Melbourne hairpin. And the guys behind, Jordan Brennan, Robbie Stapleford, absolutely fantastic race from those guys as well.
That was absolutely incredible. I was so excited. I didn't actually know it was the end of the race. I was excited. You crack on. I'd have loved one more lap.
We wanted it to go on for another 3 or 4 laps at least.
We did indeed, didn't we? We did indeed.
I think that would probably explain why Max Bird put it through the chicane the way he did. Us not realising it was the last lap. I think he tried to brake as late as he could to try and get the inside of Jack, and just misjudged it, but fair play to Max. He put it across the gravel enough that he didn't cause it to carnage.
For one horrible minute I thought he was going to take Jack McIntyre out, and that would have been a real sort of stab end to the race for Jack and Max. But yeah, respect to Max there to manage to, as much as he could, he kept his foot on the brake and kept it in the gravel.
Absolutely cracking driving from everyone there. As you know, we have said, a big shame for Max, but he did what he needed to do. He did all that he could, and he didn't luckily take anyone else with him. So really, really good stuff. We've got a lot of comments coming through YouTube as well. We've got Katie in race. That was absolutely incredible. Great fun for us as well. We've got Jan as well saying that was great racing as always. We've got loads of people. We've got Fosiers saying nice drive, Toby, as well. We've got Ross saying unlucky Max, but a great drive from Jack and Toby. Absolutely. We've got Mark saying well done, Jack. We've also got Jake Williams saying solid effort from Team Toby Trice. So we've got loads of fans here for Toby. This is some cracking support here from Toby. So, but no, honestly, that was just absolutely incredible from start to finish. We knew that there was going to be some action. We knew there was probably going to be some more action from race 1, but I don't think we expected that much action, to be fair.
No, I mean, reverse grids are always interesting, but the battling in that race was particularly good. And from the safety car to the checkered flag, there was some great driving from all the guys up front and throughout the field, to be fair to the guys. But again, I mean, the driver of the day for that race has to be Toby Trice. He just did what he needed to do. He defended hard but fair, and raced hard but fair, you know, and really, it has to be said, deserved that win. I mean, Jack McIntyre, as he proved in race 1, in qualifying, in practice, he had the pace. He was the fastest guy out there. But if you can't get past that guy in front, the speed doesn't matter.
Well, exactly that. Absolutely. You know, that was just, definite driver of the day. Driver of the day for me would 100% agree with you, Steve. That'd be Toby. What a drive! He just put his car absolutely where it needed to be. And Jack, we all know Jack is a very, very experienced driver with AC. He's a very, very experienced driver. Full stop. And I mean, yeah, it just absolutely was spot on. You know, Jack could not find a way around, could he, Dave?
No, I think that's fair to say. It was a very, very impressive drive by Jack to get through the grid that cleanly and put the pressure on Toby. But yeah, as you guys have covered, Toby, what a drive! Like for the first VRRC championship he's done, to come in and put a statement in the first round like the way he has. I think, you know, he's had a really good race 1 result and another great race 2 result. So looking at the championship standings, he's definitely keeping his hand in the pocket with Jack.
No, very much so indeed. That was as a statement to put out for your first race in a brand new championship. That was definitely it, wasn't it? That was absolutely it. I believe we've got a couple of people that we're going to go through interviews. Gents, should we all jump into the interviews? Has it bring up the end?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Brilliant stuff. So, well, who we've got in the moment? Jordan, I think we're going to start with you. I believe we've got you on board. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm not so bad, thanks. How are you?
Good. Yeah, can't complain, Tom. Can't complain at all. I think I'm going to, share this. We all share the same view for all the people that were in the broadcast. Myself, Dave, and Steve. There was some cracking driving from everyone. You know, yourself as well. Congratulations. You know, how was it for you? I mean, it looked very, very intense, to say the least.
Yeah, there was some really good driving. I was just trying to play it safe and not go for any moves that weren't on. And it just worked out in the end.
Absolutely. So I know we actually spoke about this a little bit during the race. Obviously, we know you said, you just said you were taking it a little bit easy. Like, was that genuinely, was that the thought process you were going in at sort of race 2? Or, was it always the race pace, or did that sort of like evolve as you went through the race?
That's what my game plan was for that race. With that second place in race 1, I needed to score some decent points as well in race 2. So that's what I went for.
Absolutely cracking, though. Some cracking stuff. Some really, really good stuff. Dave, Steve, anything for you guys to ask Jordan?
Sorry, go on, Dave.
Great race, Jordan. I think it's fair to say you're in it for the championship and not in it for just individual round wins. I think that was a very calculated drive by you to bring it home where you did. And during that second race, what was you thinking with Max Bird and Jack? Were you just sitting there thinking you're going to take any opportunity you get, or were you thinking it was going to end up in carnage?
Well, I was hoping it was going to be carnage, but I was happy. I didn't want to go for any move on the last lap, so I was happy to sit behind them. But then they all backed up going into the chicane, and then Max, I think he missed his brake pedal or something. Just went straight on, and I was like, oh, he's going to take them both out, but he didn't.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether that move was trying to defend against you or make a move on Jack. It seemed very optimistic, but to be fair, he managed to miss everyone. And I didn't really catch how much pressure was Robbie Stapleford putting on.
I don't even know. It wasn't really pushing too hard. It was hard.
He's maybe just looking for the result the same as you, do you think, and thinking of the championship.
Yeah.
That's a fair way of doing it.
It was difficult to catch him at first, but then once I'd caught him, he made a slight mistake and I got past him, and then I just sort of kept the gap to him. but he closed right up at the end when they were fighting in front.
Yeah, it's impressive. I think it's just shown that Toby could be a force to reckon with in this championship after that performance. So
yeah, that was good. Good driving from him.
Yeah, I just want to say, Jordan, great driving both races, buddy. Dave's pretty much asked the questions I was going to ask regarding that second race. It did look like a championship sort of drive, as it were, and just going for the points. So it's just a well done from me, buddy, and onwards to round 2.
Cheers, thank you.
So who else have we got? We've got race 2 winner, Toby Trice. Absolutely fantastic drive from you, Toby, in race 2. Were you expecting that when the lights went green?
No, I mean, once the lights went green, I kind of wanted to take every opportunity I could to gain as far forward away from Jack and Max as possible. But yeah, I didn't see that opportunity coming for the lead, and when I took it, it was just hanging on for dear life.
Yeah, I mean, we were certainly three excited commentators for the last probably 10 minutes or so, as the battle sort of opened up and panned out. And then once Jack got on your tail, he really applied some very intense pressure on you. But you just soaked it up. You put your car exactly where it needed to be. You did what you needed to be. And even when he got past you in the S's, you just stuck it straight back down the inside into the Melbourne hairpin and said, "No, you're not having it, pal." I mean, like I say, it was an absolutely fantastic drive and a real lesson in how to defend. So well done, buddy.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I knew I had the pace in me, so I hope I put a good show on trying to defend and hang on to the win. But yeah, just didn't give up. Obviously, he got ahead of me into the chicane. I knew he had more pace there than me, and just threw it back on the inside and just hung on. Racecraft's the winner, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's like I say, it's just knowing when to yield that piece of tarmac and know that you're going to get an opportunity to get it more or less straight back again. So, great observation, great racecraft, and fantastic driving from you. So onwards and upwards to round 2. But if I just hand over to Dan, have you got any questions, Dan?
I mean, to be fair, honestly, Toby, what a drive! What a drive! I know Steve said, but we were indeed very excitable in the commentary box there. I'm hoping you're going to watch that back because, honestly, that was incredible driving. One of the things that I was going to ask, 'cause I'm always intrigued. I'm always intrigued to ask people for their, for an insight into what the driver was doing for the last couple of, for the round. Were tyres actually having an effect during the race? Or I know the races are quite short, but is the tyre compound quite soft? Like, how was the tyre sort of behaving towards the end of a race?
Yeah, I mean, it was degrading slightly, but we was losing weight and fuel, so it kind of balanced out pretty well. I think I was just overdriving it at times, just trying to defend, and that's when I started struggling to put the rubber down.
Yeah, because we saw a couple of, obviously, a bit of a sideways moment. Did you find that there was some, was there a bit of sort of heat build-up which took a little bit of time which took a couple of corners to get rid of if you had that sort of like slide moment, or was it not too much of an issue?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has an effect. Obviously, once you get the rear tyres a little bit warmer than normal, it's definitely harder to kind of keep that temperature back down whilst trying to defend. So, just try to manage it and do my best job.
Honestly, no, absolutely, brilliant, cracking race, very well done, and I'm really looking forward to commentating on the rest, the next 3 rounds. It's going to be absolutely incredible.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant. And I'm just thinking, have we got anyone else in at the moment?
Jack McIntyre has just joined us. So I'll hand over to you, Dan.
Oh, Jack, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good. That was a brilliant race. That was so well defended by Toby. He made it pretty impossible to get past. I think I almost would have been in with a shot there right at the end, but Max Bird had a bit of a moment behind me, so it kind of stopped me from having a go. But no, that was brilliant. Loved it.
No, it was really, really good. Like I said, we've said, in the commentary, it was just, from start to finish. We didn't realise it was the last lap. We were so excited for it to keep going. We didn't actually realise it was the last lap until about 10 seconds after everyone crossed the line. Well, I didn't anyway. I was so engrossed in watching them racing, because I could have watched that all evening. That was absolutely incredible. I think, to be fair, like a cracking drive from you to work your way through the field. What was the game plan working through the field? Was it just as many positions as you can get, or were you sort of thinking, maybe, I'll settle for P3, I'll settle for a top 3 and take the positions, or was it just I want to get to and I want to win again? What was the thought process?
Well, I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to win, so that was kind of the goal. Yeah, but I just kind of took it car by car. You know, I was pretty confident in the pace that I had during the races that I could make my way through. So it was just a case of kind of coming up behind each person and seeing where you've got the pace and where you can make the move, and then just seeing where that got me by the end. And I was kind of lucky in that a few people made mistakes in front, so I got some free positions. But yeah, as soon as I was behind Toby, it was a different story.
That's good stuff. Yeah, it was cracking. Like I said, I'm sure we are all very much very interested to see some more racing of that going through the rest of the season, because that's going to be, if the next 3 rounds are like it, then I am 100%, 110% involved. I cannot wait for the remainder of the rounds. Dave, anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think what we can see from this championship is, I think I'll ask Jack directly, but the respect of driving in this championship, it's proven itself. I think the drivers know how hard these cars are to drive, and you know, any sort of taps here and there, it's really quite a hard car to save. And I think we're seeing a lot more respect in these sort of championships where the cars are a little bit harder. Would you agree, Jack? Or
yeah, absolutely. I think in the case where we're in some of the other cars that we've done in the past, like the touring cars or the minis, they're quite easy to get to a certain point of pace, so everyone kind of equalizes a lot. But then these cars are so tricky, and there's a lot of little nuances that you have to learn, and it makes them so difficult to race closely. So yeah, the respect's been really good. I have to admit, I was a little bit worried before we did the first race as to how everyone was going to be able to race in the pack, because you know, the cars are tricky. They want to spin all the time. So no, it was really good. I was really impressed with how everyone raced, and yeah, I had absolutely no issues all night, which is brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, we're here at Donington. How do you think we're going to fare when we go to maybe the slightly tighter tracks towards the end of the season, like Thruxton and Alton Park instead?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Donington's it's good. It's not as tight and twisty as maybe some of the others, such as Alton, but it's still pretty tricky to pass, and it's really fast as well. So it's a good test of a driver. So I think it's probably quite representative of what the rest of the season's going to be like. I mean, somewhere like Alton's going to be a bit of a spanner in the works, maybe, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm really looking forward to Thruxton. I think that'll be mega in these cars.
Yeah, I think Thruxton's the round I'm looking forward to commentating on as well. But I'll let you go anyway, Jack. Very, very impressive drive. And I didn't get a chance to speak to Toby, but very impressive drive as well, Toby. You know, for your first championship, it's a phenomenal start.
Yeah, I mean, what an invite to sim racing, right? I think that's a real advert to show how exciting sim racing can actually be.
Yeah, well, actually, I was going to quickly ask you, regarding the people who's watching this that might want to get involved, and especially aiming it at some of the real racing drivers as well. Like, some of the real racing drivers have got this sort of stigma around sim racing where it can't be like the real thing, and it's, you know, just a game essentially. But what we are trying to prove is, you know, this is a really good aid to help increase racecraft, and also just keeps you, you know, hot on your heels for the off season.
Yeah, it certainly did that. I mean, that race especially was a definite test of my ability. So, yeah, I mean, of course it's different. You know, the car, you can't feel physically what the car's doing in terms of, you know, your body. But yeah, you know, as racing goes, I've treated this exactly as I would a race weekend, and just attacked it as best I can.
It'd have been interesting to see your heart rate there at the end.
Well, funnily enough, I did actually check mine on the Fitbit afterwards, and it was up near 140 for the last kind of 5-10 minutes of that race.
That's interesting, actually. That's interesting.
Yeah, you got to sit down.
Yeah, well, you deserve it, Jack, and you've had a really good evening. Obviously, a first and a second place, so that's setting you up really well for the championship. The only question I have for you, really, because the guys have covered everything, and obviously well done. But through the S's, when you got past Toby, did you think that was move done? Did you expect him to come straight back at you as hard as he did into Melbourne?
I mean, I kind of, having seen how Toby was racing before and how hard he was defending, I did kind of expect that he would try it. I'm not too sure. In the moment, I probably did think it was just about done, and I would be able to break a bit later, but he really chucked it in, and fair play, because he put the car where he needed to be and just put me in a position where I had to let him go. So that was probably my own fault for not covering that off, but yeah, it was a great job by Toby.
Yeah, well, it was a great job by everybody on the grid tonight. We saw some great racing throughout the field, but in particular you guys up at the front, you kept everybody entertained. So thank you for that, and well done. And as the guys have said, you've set us up for a fantastic championship, and we can't wait to fast forward now a week ahead and get round 2 underway. So thank you very much, guys, and well done.
Cheers, Dave. Thank you.
So that just about wraps up this evening, Dan. What were your thoughts on round one?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think no one can deny that was true. I mean, the amount of comments we had in the YouTube channel and all, all on the different platforms that we've been streaming to. What a round! What a round to start off what is going to be an amazing championship, and also what is going to be an amazing series of championships as well. That's one thing as well to remember, is there's going to be lots of different championships. We've got another 3 championships after this as well. And if the racing is as good as race 1 and 2 was for the Porsche Challenge, then this is just going to be absolutely incredible. You can see on the screen there. So the next 3 rounds, we've got Snetterton is the next round in a week's time. That's going to be an interesting track. I'm really looking forward to that as well. That's going to be an absolutely incredible one to do, because that's going to be a little bit more, it's similar sort of to Donington. It's quite fast flowing, apart from, it's the infield section, so the other 300, so you've got that slightly more slower section as well. So there's a lot of similarities to Donny in the fact you've got the Donny GP circuit, you've got the slower section towards the end, you've got the slower section sort of midway through the lap at Snet. So that's going to be incredible as well. I just can't wait. I literally cannot wait. As you can probably tell with the fact I'm so excited. And I'm going to stop talking now.
I was going to say, just really quickly, I mean, obviously, we're just looking their League of Champions. We've got the 4 different disciplines, each with 4 rounds to prove themselves at, and some great prizes up for grabs as well. So it really is, it's going to be a fantastic championship. And as we saw this evening, there's been some fantastic championship drives, as it were, some very safe but aggressive driving, and just going for the points rather than trying to attack every single position. And it showed some very intelligent, mature sort of driving from people. But one other thing I will take from tonight is the safety car addition to this championship. I think it's proved tonight a great addition, because allowing those guys on the opening laps, especially, that have gone off the road in the mid pack for whatever reason, when there's been a few of them, bringing that safety car out just allowed them to regroup at the back of the pack and start racing again, and not potentially lose more ground than they need to, as it were. So I hats off to VRRC for that addition. I think it works really well.
Exactly. No, very much so. Really good stuff. Got another comment in from the Vardinator. Great driving and even better commentating. So, gents, cracking commentating as well. That was really good fun. Really good fun indeed. Dave, as well. What was your first commentary experience like?
You know what? Honestly, going from being in the driving seat and the buzz of the actual racing to come into the comms box and watch a whole grid race wheel to wheel the way they just have, like, on par with the buzz. It's quite amusing that Max Burns just sent us a message and said, "Never good when you press the clutch pedal instead of your brake." So that's what happened in that last chicane. It's been mega, and I'm really impressed with the driving standards. With such difficult cars, the respect these drivers have got between themselves, it's really impressive, and I think it's only going to lend itself to people wanting to get more and more interested throughout the League of Champions. We've got over half a grid already filled up for Bath, which is like a Formula Ford style car, which takes place in 3 weeks' time. Which to have over half a grid already full 3 weeks or 4 weeks in advance, should I say? Then it's really impressive. So anyone who wants to get involved, please feel to message VRRC and get in touch.
Yeah, I just want to say well done, Dave. Obviously, your first experience of commentating, and it's not always easy to jump in and do it. It is a different sort of challenge, especially totally different to driving, as you say, but equally as exciting, because you do get to see more of the action. But great job from you tonight, buddy, and well done on your first go.
Cheers, Steve and Dan. You did make it easy for me. So on to the next one. Hope it's as exciting.
Exactly. On to the next one. Like I've said before, if this is how the League of Champions is going to go, then I think everyone that's watching, I think us three as well, we are all going to be, there's just going to be too much action to commentate on, isn't there? I think we're going to need another 5 or 6 commentators to try and catch all the action, aren't we? Let's be honest.
We'll give it a go, though, mate. We'll give it a go.
Exactly. No, that's absolutely fantastic. Gents, it has been a pleasure. It's also been an absolute pleasure for everyone that's been chatting on the streams, and obviously we've been streaming to several different platforms as well. It's been absolutely incredible. Big thanks as well to the broadcaster Simply Race. So absolutely fantastic event. I really hope everyone has enjoyed it. And I think, to be fair, chaps, if there's nothing else to say, everyone, no, I think the only thing to say is for everyone to make sure you take care and you stay safe, and we'll see you next week for round 2 of the Virtual Reality Racing Club League of Champions at Snetterton. Take care.
Good night.
The inside of coats.
Parker gets too heavily involved.
And that's Whitehead and Coates.